President Donald Trump says the U.S. will refine and sell up to 50 million barrels of Venezuelan crude oil under a new arrangement. It follows the ousting of former President Nicolas Maduro last week. Journalist Tony Waterman joins me live from Washington with the details. So, Tony, Trump is meeting right now with high-level oil executives. What has he had to say so far?
Well, depending on how you look at this is either a pitch or it's a ramping up of a pressure campaign on these oil executives to try and convince them to invest in Venezuela. And it is coming across as a very hard pitch because there are a lot of concerns that some of these executives are raising around political instability and security risks on the ground right now. But the president has been saying that he expects the oil industry to invest at least $100 billion to rebuild the capacity and infrastructure in Venezuela, something that these companies have not confirmed. But Trump really was selling this as the best business opportunity of the century, saying that these companies are going to get extremely rich, as well as Americans who are going to get extremely rich. There was really no mention of Venezuelans getting rich from this development of their oil industry. The president also said that Venezuela has agreed to allow the United States to refine and resell up to 50 million barrels, which the president says is likely to continue indefinitely. He told these companies, don't worry, you're going to be dealing with the United States directly. You don't have to deal with Venezuela in your transactions. But this is also a settlement of sort that Trump is going after. In his mind, this is also about righting a wrong. When Venezuela nationalized its oil industry back in the 2000s and also in the late 1970s, and U.S. oil assets were seized. Take a listen.
We're taking back what was taken from us. They took our oil industry. We built that entire oil industry. Started a long time ago, but they took it and they were very ungracious to this country, but now they're being very nice. American companies will have the opportunity to rebuild Venezuela's rotting energy infrastructure and eventually increase oil production to levels never, ever seen before.
At one point, the president was joking with the head of ConocoPhillips, which the CEO of that company, Ryan Lance, said left behind $12 billion in equipment and assets when oil was nationalized, calling it a very good write-off for the company. Trump also saying that if the United States didn't do this, didn't go into Venezuela and start to take over its oil industry, that China or Russia would have done this. The vice president also in the room today saying that it's really the United States that should be controlling this valuable asset, not anybody else.
And what kind of reaction did we hear from the oil executives?
Well, there are nearly 20 representatives from major oil companies in Europe, in the United States. None of them have made any sort of firm commitments so far. They've been going around the room kind of talking about what their plans are. Instead, a lot of them are saying that they're interested in getting a better understanding of what the investment opportunities may be. But a number of them are actually offering a quite sobering assessment of the challenges that they would face in turning this industry around. So ExxonMobil CEO Darren Woods said that Venezuela is uninvestable right now, that major changes to the commercial framework need to be made before any sort of investment can happen. There needs to be changes to the legal system, he cited, also for durable investment protections and changes to the country's hydrocarbon laws. But he did say that they have been assembling a technical team to go into Venezuela to assess the current state of the industry and the assets there to get a better understanding of what it would take to get this off the ground.
We haven't been in the country for almost 20 years. We think it's absolutely critical in the short term that we get a technical team in place to assess the current state of the industry and the assets, to understand what would be involved to help the people of Venezuela get production back on the market. With the invitation of the Venezuelan government and with appropriate security guarantees, we are ready to put a team on the ground there.
The vice chairman of Chevron, which is the only major U.S. oil company operating in Venezuela right now, said that they may be able to boost their production by improving on the existing infrastructure over the next 18 months. But he also made no firm commitments. And at one point, President Trump asked Harold Hamm, who is the head of Continental Resources, but also a close friend of the president and a major donor to his campaign, whether his company would go into Venezuela. And Hamm really tried to sidestep the question. He stopped short of answering, saying that the idea of it excites him because he's an explorationist and that everybody has that in their blood, but made no commitment as well. And many of these companies, you have to remember, have already tried to make money in Venezuela. They have had their assets seized, some of them on multiple occasions. So a bit of once bitten, twice shy here.
And earlier, Trump talked about another tanker seized by authorities. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so the U.S. Southern Command posted earlier today that they had boarded, that the Coast Guard had boarded and seized what is now the fifth oil tanker in recent weeks. This is the Olina tanker. The Secretary of the Department of Homeland Security, Kristi Noem, called it a ghost fleet, saying that it was a sanctioned ship that was carrying sanctioned oil, so justification there for taking it over. But in a social media post, President Trump said that the tanker had left Venezuela without the U.S.'s approval before it was then apprehended, saying on social media that this tanker is now on its way back to Venezuela and that the oil will be sold through the great energy deal, which we have created for such sales. So again, the U.S. trying to control the flow and the sale of the oil coming in and out of Venezuela. Just a couple of days ago, American forces in the North Atlantic took control of the Bella One, which is a Russian flag tanker that had fled the American blockade and led to a weeks-long chase on the high seas. So further pressure on these sanctioned tankers, as well as the United States really pushes forward with its quarantine phase of this operation.
Tony, thank you. Journalist Tony Waterman live in Washington.